Just about 10 years ago, I wrote one of the most read articles I've ever created for OnMilwaukee. As we settle into this holiday season, it looked like a good time to revisit the sad topic of Northridge Mall. The article is still up and you can read it, but it's pretty dated now. What it doesn't have is all the original photos we took inside the Ghost Mall on 76th and Brown Deer Road. Back then, our software couldn't really display an article with some 20 photos, so I'm creating this video with some new commentary to turn back the clock and take another look at Northridge and how it appeared in January 2012. The 800,000 square foot former shopping center on the corner of 76th and Brown Deer sits just 10 minutes from River Hills, one of Milwaukee's most affluent suburbs. Built by Herb Cole and his partners, it opened in 1973. It was a virtual carbon copy of Southridge Mall, and after a slow decline, it finally shut its doors 30 years later in 2003. Even though a variety of factors contributed to Northridge's demise, the one most people remember was a murder with a racially motivated alibi. Jesse Anderson, who was white, brutally killed his wife in 1992, but claimed two black men attacked them while they dined at TGI Fridays next to the mall. It was the final nail in the coffin for many white suburban shoppers who decided that it was safer to travel the extra distance to Bayshore, Mayfair, or Brookfield Square. You may also recall that Anderson was murdered in prison alongside Jeffrey Dahmer. In 2009, Northridge was purchased for $6 million by a Chinese investment group called the Toward Group, and it was supposed to become a Chinese Mall of North America dedicated to showcasing Far East retailers, sort of like a brick-and-mortar Wish.com. Not surprisingly, that never happened, and honestly, I doubt that was ever really the plan. So where did my visit come in? I was in Brown Deer doing an interview, and on the way back downtown, I drove past Northridge. This was before the streets around it were closed off, so I pulled right up and looked at it. So I made some phone calls. I called the Granville-Brown Deer Chamber of Commerce and asked if I could get in to take some pictures and get a tour. Amazingly, they said sure, and they hooked me up with a man named Yi Wan, who was the liaison of the Chinese company, the Toward Group, that owned it. Yi Wan was also the president of Y&Y International in Milwaukee. At no point did he explain what this company did, but according to Google, it was a business management consultant company in Menominee Falls that is now permanently closed. With me also was property caretaker Jeff Mizuski, who had worked at Northridge for 20 years. He understandably was not happy about the state of the mall. I remember all those times as a kid growing up on the North Shore and how this was my mall of choice. I even remembered my final visit there, actually, when it was in steep decline, and I bought a pager. I also brought photographer Aaron Labor from Front Room Studios, who took these pictures, and my friend John Adler, the morning show host at FM 1021. Mizuski and Juan let us in through a temporary door outside the boarded-up food court, which was a 1988 addition to the mall, and our jaws dropped as we stepped back in time. It looked exactly like its twin, Southridge, before it was remodeled. But inside, Northridge sat clean and well lit with its spacious skylights. Even though the power and the heat were shut off, the large trees in the center of the mall continued to grow because their roots were planted deep into the ground. Almost all the external storefront signs were removed, but it was remarkably preserved. As I understand it, those trees are gone now. Certain markers gave me some indication of where we were. From the faded sign where the letters of Spencer's Gifts once shined, to a poster outside Boston's store that showed the mall alive with flowers and shoppers. I walked past the movie theater where I saw a bunch of movies as a kid. Mizuski reminded me where the Gap and Farrell's once stood. I might have even seen that spot where I bought that pager. The irony was not lost on me as I read the sign urging me to rediscover Northridge. In fact, while all the storefronts were virtually completely empty, we could walk a bit into the pitch-black anchor stores, and using our camera flashes, we could see displays and posters for the beauty products at Boston Store and JCPenney's. The mall did not seem musty, it didn't smell musty. Nothing appeared to be falling apart except for a broken skylight and some signage by the movie theater, which was shuttered many years ago, long before the mall closed. It was like time stopped in 2003 and hadn't restarted. But Mizuski remembered all of the storefronts when we quizzed him, and I could tell how disgusted he was. One of the things that upset me was why the heat was off. Until 2012, Mizuski was instructed to warm the building to 32 degrees. Thermostats had been placed along the walls with marker lines indicating the freezing line, and all of them were below that. It was January. I'm sure all the pipes have since blown, and honestly, Northridge was never going to be a shopping mall again. A YouTuber did a Christmas video with Samsung there a few a few years ago and completely trashed whatever was left with the mall. Since my tour, Penzi Spices tried to buy Northridge in 2013, but in 2014, the Chinese company paid its back taxes and it stopped a foreclosure sale. Unfortunately, on the evening of July 22, 2019, a maintenance contractor was fatally electrocuted investigating an open fuse box. Finally, the demolition order was approved by a judge of the Milwaukee County Circuit Court, ruling that the mall was dangerous. Where does it stand now? As of April, the Business Journal reports that the city of Milwaukee is hiring a contractor to clear asbestos from Northridge Mall's former Boston store so it can be torn down, as the remainder of the vacant Northside shopping center remains tied up in a lawsuit. All I know is it's still standing there, looking worse and worse every day. I consider myself fortunate that I could see it one last time 10 years ago.